All right, it's hot as balls outside right now, and it's okay. I like to be outside grounded, feeling my feet on the earth, because we know that our body actually needs that to regulate. And as you know, if you've been following along, my nervous system has most certainly been on overload, going through a rebirth in the relationship that I'm in. First, I thought it was ending, but it was also because I didn't have proper communication to get to the point of understanding. So if you follow the last two videos, I've been trying to negotiate something with myself. First, it started with my partner. We didn't get anywhere. We took space. I came into myself. I did understand that there wasn't any solution that I saw fit, and we weren't getting anywhere. And so I figured that's the end. Something about me is I'm really committed to not self-abandoning, because I've actually done that in my whole entire life, from when I was a little girl trying to fit in, be small and easy and not get left behind, because my dad has an illustrious career as a musician and I was packed up in a suitcase with the rest of the things and basically told, this is first, forget your hobbies, forget your friends, forget the things you love, you're coming on the road. To be honest, we were a good match, because I loved the road. I loved seeing the world. I loved going on tour and getting to experience new cultures and peoples and places. And it really got me to grow up and mature into the person that I am today. I credit everything I am and have, my open-mindedness, my adaptability, my sophistication, what can I say? My ability to connect with any person because of all the different walks of life that I got to witness. Awesome. Wouldn't trade it for the world to understand the cultures and things out there. But at the same time, I really had to get comfortable letting me go, making myself small. There just wasn't room for me to have equal needs to the fast-paced lifestyle and the big personalities in the room. And I was told that pretty young in indirect and direct ways. This comes first. This is more important. Everything else waits. And as somebody who bonds really deeply and connects really deeply, it was already this early life wounding where I felt I better adapt, or really I will get left behind. And so I found myself in that dynamic many a time, trying to contort myself to fit in, trying to make sure that the other person's needs were met far before mine. My idea of a need was not even on the table at all. And so in romantic relationships especially, and that's where things get really triggered, right? Romantic relationships where all of our hearts are open and they're on the line. And that's why this is really where the real stuff happens. At least for me, love, connection, romantic relationship has always been the boss level playing field for all of the things I've thought I've healed and all of the things I need to look into. In my last relationship, I put everything on me. I made sure that I was always the one adapting, and I made sure that I was always the one looking at myself as the problem, which is what I'd done before, but I almost doubled down. And to be honest, a lot of the dynamics in there were very similar to my family. Fast-paced, big personality, not a lot of room for me. So I made myself small. I left the life that I wanted here in Hawaii behind. I tried to move to California to make something happen with someone, and I found myself slowly withering away. My hair started falling out. I started to get chronic UTIs. I know what you're thinking. Believe me, I took precautions. Get out. Everything was really strange. My body was speaking loud and I was ignoring it. I had a knot in my stomach perpetually. I felt like I just had such bad anxiety. I was having panic attacks, and all of my years of coaching and self-regulation and all the tools, the daily meditations, the morning grounding, the nervous system regulation, like every single freaking thing I had in my tool belt just felt like nothing is working. And that was so scary for me. I felt like a fraud. I felt like I couldn't coach my clients. I felt like what works if this doesn't work? And what I found after a certain period of time was that no meditation, no protocol, no cleanse, no diet, no vitamins, no therapy, no coaching, nothing can heal you out of a life that is not aligned. The only thing that can stop you from feeling those feelings is if you make a change. For me, I wasn't living where I wanted to live. I didn't have the community that I wanted to have. I didn't even have the partnership. I thought it was the partnership that I wanted to have, but I was very, very much in denial that a partnership I want to have allows us both to flourish and thrive. We simply weren't compatible. The life he had made me anxious. It felt really dysregulating. And a lot of the things in his world were literally my number one non-negotiable no's. And chemistry could get the best of you. But I share this because I vowed to myself when I left that relationship, realizing that even though he pled and told me all the things he was gonna do that were radically different than what he was doing, and I believed he would try, he would just be contorting himself to my life in the same way that I tried to contort myself into his life, and I couldn't let him do that. So I left. I felt in my body, this is a no, and there's no way that this could work. In my current dynamic, both of us had already established the life we wanted to live, except I was actually just slowly stepping foot into the world of all of my dreams. I had just moved here. I had just started doing the things I wanted to do. And in fact, in the beginning, I was kind of pushing him away because I thought, oh my God, I'm not ready. Like I haven't established myself yet. And I just kind of got out of this thing, and I know that chapter is closed and I feel complete, but I just feel like I need to establish me more, and I'm scared, basically. And he was the most patient, loving person. He's like basically said, whatever you need, I respect your boundaries completely. I honor your path. I really like spending time with you. I'd like to get to know you better. And yet 100% you have to do what you have to do. And that was also so healing. I remember he told me that, and I just cried my motherfucking eyes out in my bedroom. I was just like, dude, nobody's ever said anything like that to me before. I feel like every time I'd historically expressed a need, it was met with resistance, or you have to, or but my needs, or some kind of negotiation. And it's my job to uphold my needs, not anyone else's, even if they negotiate, even if they try, even if they pry, even if they push. A boundary is solely for you to uphold, right? But that really disarmed me, and I fell into such a place of safety and feeling seen with him that eventually, with some conversation, we found ourselves both open to giving it a try. Another thing he said to me from the beginning when I shared my fears of falling into codependent patterns is, he voiced the same. I've also had a history of codependent patterns, and I understand deeply the journey you're on because I went on it myself. Can I hold you accountable and continue to see you? Also, something that absolutely melted my heart, felt like leadership, felt like kindness, felt like seeing me, connecting with me. It felt like true support. So we started to explore. We found ourselves madly in love. We built a beautiful life that literally is my vision board. And then, of course, as was shared, I started to feel something wasn't settled in my body. And it wasn't the same as in my last partnership. I felt peace with him. I still feel peace. But it was something like, imbalanced energy. I was actually doing everything I needed for me. I felt like I was breaking the codependent patterns. I was on my way. And I felt like he, being in a big transition that he's been in, wasn't able to be in the same space. Like I was more outward facing and he was more facing towards me. And I've shared how the conversations went to understand each other more deeply in that, and to request what I needed, which was a different energy dynamic, and for him to meet himself. And we didn't get to that place clearly. I know I'm being a little vague because I'm mindful of details of privacy that eventually I could share if it feels right, but for now. So when I shut down after not hearing what I wanted because I was really afraid of being self-abandoning, I just vowed to myself I would never go as far as I did in my last relationship away from myself. My triggers come up. I start getting protective of myself, which is a beautiful thing, to be protective of yourself. By the way, I was never unkind, always kind. The entire thing was maintained with so much warmth and compassion and kindness and respect. But I just basically was like, if you aren't seeing what I need and you aren't able to meet that now, then I have to go. And there is a time and place where that's true, you guys. Trust me. So that's why I'm sharing this story so discerningly, to share that after a series of conversations, even after I did decide to end things because I wasn't hearing anything from the other side, and it does take two to tango, like I said in my last video, when I finally got that confirmation and that energy shift, and I was disarmed enough to really hear him, I heard him say the words that I needed to hear. I heard him show leadership. I saw that he'd actually made moves in something I've needed him to do for himself. And I could breathe. And then we ran it through my body, and my body said, yes, I can do this. It fully surrendered. It felt so amazing to shift out of the role where I feel like I'm holding on and getting hyper in control because I'm scared of self-abandoning. And I also just tend to do that because it's my nature to be like, I got this, like I said. But it felt so good to feel that surrender, and my body surrendered to him. It felt like I could be in my feminine. I could be, I can let him lead. I have the confidence and trust in him to lead again. And when I say lead, this isn't some kind of like misogyny. Like, let me tell you, my friends, how much work I've done on myself and how confident I am in myself and having me and running my own show and my own businesses and being in my own sovereignty. It's not like I'm looking for somebody to rescue me at all. I'm looking for somebody to match me. And similar to dance, if you know anything about partner dancing, which is ironically how he and I met, I was like, bro, you know how to lead me. That's how we met. That's like how I fell in love with you. What I love about the feminine masculine dynamic that works in my book for me is I feel that the feminine, and we all have feminine and masculine in us, the feminine is the oracle. The feminine is the one that's deeply intuitive and connected to the divine. Let's just go on a biological level. The woman needs to be attuned to the tribe and the family and the children, and that's her role. I mean, it's not the only role, but that's her gift. She's able to have this keen sense of awareness about what's going on underneath the surface, about messages that might not make sense to everyone now, but it's for safety and survival. She is wired for safety. Safety is her default. And anything that threatens that field, she's attuned to. And sometimes she can't put the words behind it. And by the way, men have this too. We all have it within our bodies to know what isn't safe, what isn't feeling right, and what's actually threatening the purpose of us and our being. And in this case, we got lots of little flies going on. And in this case, I served that role in this dynamic. I could sense something that I was keenly attuned to that he wasn't quite yet attuned to, and I demanded an up level. And I said sometimes it takes rupture for things to be seen more clearly. I wish it wasn't the case. Believe me, I think we all wish it wasn't the case, but we all know the moments in our lives when we've had some breakthrough in awareness. It usually comes through heartbreak, grief, losing something, someone, a job, transition points, being unsure, moving. it's in those moments, they say, right, the cracks allow the light to get in, the clarity to be seen, to be had, to be held. It takes moving through the grief at first or the confusion, but eventually that is the moment that you are so attuned. Also, unfortunately, when we hit a rock bottom in life, that is the moment where we're searching, right? Where we're like, finally, I'm listening, I'm desperate. And my thing is, I just wish we all spent our lives listening more deeply, more connectedly. I mean, listen, there's a time and place to just play. I took almost 8 months off therapy because I was in it so deep last year that I just wanted to play. And I played my way into true joy and health and happiness and all of the things that I am now. And I didn't need to be so like ear to the glass, you know? But that's why I have a meditation practice, to bring myself to that every once in a while, once a day, not every once in a while, at least once a day, to just listen. And I think that's what has allowed me to listen so clearly and come to this conclusion so abruptly and sort of powerfully on both sides, from the first rupture that had to be made before there was another person meeting me on the other side with their vision, before his vision got clear. And then when his vision got clear and we were able to meet eye to eye, heart to heart, gut to gut, and everything felt good again with this new vision that both of us created together, that's amazing. And that's where I am, and that's where I'm settled now. Everything in this world is a dance that we'll continue to see. But what I love, what I was saying about this dynamic, this feminine, masculine, and what felt so good to me, maybe some of you resonate, is to feel like I'm listening, I'm communicating, something is wrong, and knowing myself enough to know what that is, because I've listened, share that with my partner, have him take those pieces, throw shit at the wall, try to find some kind of conclusion, me tune into my body, my deep inner knowing as the feminine, as the oracle, as the divine connection, and say, yes, this works, or no, this doesn't work. And then from there, co-create a vision that's the most powerful vision for both of us. It's like it is a dance where there's leadership in both. But I need my partner to lead. And when I say lead, it's lead with heart, it's lead with the vision, it's continuing to move forward and contribute and execute on behalf of my dream and my desires, and his dream and his desires. I'm doing the same. There's always that happening with everyone, whether you're feminine or masculine or non-binary, whatever you identify with. But that's the dance between the feminine and the masculine in our own selves. Is this making sense? I could break this down from my studies in ancient Hawaiian Mu healing. Aloha Ma is the training that I did, which I have the tattoo of. But that is the dance. It's knowing your own dream and your own, what meets your safety and what you need and what's guiding you deeper to divinity enough to then communicate that to your inner masculine. I'm pointing to my low belly, which is the feminine center, like the womb space for men too. And for the heart is where the masculine lives. Your feminine communicates that up to your heart, and your heart goes into the world and actually makes that shit happen. That's the masculine that is always, always, always executing on behalf of the feminine. But the feminine is actually the one with the messages. So in those ways, she is the leader. In those ways, she leads, she up-levels, she creates the deepening and the calls and the desires and all of the boundaries and the things for safety that need to be created. That happens in the feminine, in your own body. This is you, sovereign. And then with a partner, if that's your role, feminine, masculine, and there usually is some polarity between the two, no matter what you identify as. For me as my feminine, for me as the one who's attuned to those things really deeply, as I communicate, I needed his vision. I needed him to say, yes, I've got you. I see you. I'm doing this. If he can't and he can't see it yet, there is no dance. And that is when you must pull back. So, and you also have to feel if that dance is authentic, right? You have to see, does that feel real and embodied in him? And when I felt that real and embodied in him, I was able to surrender. My safety, my guards went down, and I was able to say, yes, I believe in you to carry this through now. So as we carry this through together, and I asked him to uphold the structure of the boundaries and the things that need to be done. I don't want to be the one to do it. I want him to be the one to do it. I then can follow the dance and the invitations he brings to me and the initiations he asks me to do with him. Like those, and I'm talking as little as like going on dates and hanging out to having some like deeper thing that's going on together and building a life. So I'm using kind of esoteric words. I kind of want to keep this grounded too. I'm speaking on the base of my studies, which are in the esoterics in that way, but it's also extremely practical. If you understand what I'm saying, let's just use the male-female dynamic. The woman doesn't feel right about something, communicates that. The man doesn't understand. She keeps trying, he doesn't get it. It's not happening. She keeps trying. That's when the feminine has to go into hyperdrive. She's out of safety. She moves from the heart and the gut and the belly and the relaxed and the state of flow into the head and into the hyperdrive, because she feels like she has to take the reins. So that balance is super important to keep into play, and that is also why my partner and I decided we have to move out of spaces, because I think we were starting to create a kind of an enmeshed environment, an enmeshed energy, where we both were, the lines were blurring. And that can happen really easily. That happens all the time. And that's also why chemistry can die over time for people, because we aren't in the polarity, and the polarity is what creates that chemistry. It's that literal magnetic pole of positive, negative, feminine, masculine, so on and so forth. And I'm navigating that now. I don't have the answers exactly in real time, but I have a sense of how that can work. And I think it's upholding a certain structure and having a certain boundary with even each other, even your partner that you love so deeply. You need to have the time for you. You need to have the time to have your energy going in a different way rather than just the partnership, because if it's just all energy in the partnership, it becomes codependent and enmeshed, and it bleeds those two energies together into one. And I know that it feels like that's a beautiful thing, but there's a beautiful quote by Khalil, what's his name? From the book The Prophet. And I'll never forget it. It's in essence that love is like two oceans. You and your partner, it was about marriage, but how you and your partner should be like two oceans. There's like this bleed that happens together that's beautiful, but you are two oceans, that deep, that rich, that full of your own life. And you go together. And as somebody who had only witnessed codependent patterns in my childhood, I was like, that sounds so fucked up. You're not supposed to be two oceans. You're supposed to be one. That's so scary. It literally scared me, this idea. But as I've gotten older and wiser and more mature and more in my body, more connected to me, I understand how important it is to maintain that sovereignty, that autonomy, that independence, because that is literally you. That's you. You gotta stay in you. I always say, come home to yourself. That's been my message to my clients and myself, and everything I've pretty much ever done has been about coming home to yourself, staying with yourself, not abandoning yourself, connecting to you. So, how do you continue to stay at home in yourself? And that's a little bit of what we lost. I'd say he lost even more than myself in this dynamic, and I think we both could admit that. So how can we make sure we stay? We have to uphold the structure. And in this case, I've asked the masculine, uphold that structure. Uphold that structure for us, because then I can relax into my feminine. To use the partnership dancing analogy or metaphor that I was about to use a minute ago, we met in dance, and in dance, usually the lead. It's generally traditionally the male, but it's not always. There's plenty of female leads, and I'm actually gonna try to learn how to lead too, because I think it will also help me follow. We got to know both. We're both. But we met in class, and he showed me through his leadership, through leading dance. When you're the feminine, when you're the follow in this case, you don't know where you're going. But you finessed your craft. You know how to dance on your own. Let's just say that. You know how to dance on your own. And you have your own energy and your own flow and your own expression in that. And by the way, I'm not like that fucking good at dancing. Like, let's just get that straight. But I've been dancing for about 8 months now regularly, and I've fallen in love with it for these reasons. You have your own expression. You are you in your body, and you feel yourself, and the whole thing is you. It's coming from you. And then a lead might ask you to dance. And what's beautiful about that is they are showing you the way. You actually are not knowing the next moves. They know the moves. And then you get creative in that container together. And it's a co-creation. And you still can pull away. You can do your own thing. You can come back together. You could move on to the next dancer. You could dance alone. You can do whatever you want. But that container is rich. That container creates safety, polarity, play, everything that you could imagine. And that's what I'm looking for in my partnership. Me. I know I'm a powerhouse of a woman. I know I can do this on my own. I want to do it with someone else. I want their vision. I want their leadership with me, for them, that also bleeds into me. So far, so good. We're early on in that journey, but I'm very clear about what I'm feeling, what I want, what's being met, and that I can work and dance in this container. So I share that just in hopes that it helps someone else who's trying to understand maybe what they're looking for in their partnership, or maybe what's missing for them, and maybe what they need. We made kind of a radical shift in our lives because we love each other that much. And there's so much security in this relationship, like I've never had before, where both of us are 100% certain and trusting in each other's love. And that's really special, because if you don't have that as a foundation, it's really hard to dance. It's really hard to trust a 30-day period of space where we're committed to each other, but there's no anxiety that we aren't loving each other through that process. We may have bouts and moments of it, but for the foundation, like, that is not a concern. We allow each other to be who we are, and we are in a monogamous, committed relationship, and we have no doubts. That's stunning. That's something that is real special to me to have, and I believe that many people can have that. I'm not in lack around that sort of dynamic, but that's what is foundational about our ability to shift the container to be one where we live together. It's in this sort of traditional home environment, to one where we first take an initiation of space to break that codependency for 30 days, which is what we're doing. And if you missed that, you can watch my other video, my last video, and then go into a different container structure where he gets to be in his space and I get to be in my space, and we uphold boundaries during the week where we focus on what we need to focus on now, so we don't get mixed up and enmeshed during this time. I think that there's a time where once we feel really, 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 really clear and foundational in what we're creating and who we are, which we have a lot of clarity, but there's more. We're still young. I need us to bloom in those spaces without any enmeshment to each other on the day-to-day. We have time and space to do that. We have time and space to come together, and we have time and space to do that, and time and space to come together. Super structured right now. If this scares you, I freaking get it, bro. I don't think I ever could have done this until I met this partner. And again, this isn't for everyone because your partnership is different. But something I do really want people to have is a baseline of security with their partner. I think that's a really important one, to know that the love is there and strong, and to be able to have that kind of connection. You can do anything together. Ultimately, again, anybody could decide that the paths are going in different directions and it's not the fit, but if you have that foundation of just absolute love and security and safety, like, it feels like there's just nothing that we can't do. And of course, they have to meet you in your vision. They have to meet you halfway. They have to understand where you're going, and then they have to contribute to that. 50% at least, 50-50. Actually, yeah, it should be 50-50. I know it can't always be 50-50. There's lots on that. Like, sometimes it's 20-30, like 20-80, sometimes it's 60-40, sometimes it's this and that. But the idea is that you're generally coming back to that 50-50. You can't carry anybody's weight. You got to make sure they're doing it too. And then you dance. All right. Those are my raw thoughts today. I appreciate you being here. Follow along if you want to hear more and how this continues and my raw, candid thoughts about it. I'll be totally honest and transparent with you guys. Even moments where I feel anxious, I'm here to share, because I don't feel like people get in it enough about this stuff in a healthy, conscious way. I'm not perfect, but I'm doing this with as much consciousness and connection to my body and heart and mind all together as I possibly can, after many years of self-study, therapy, self-work, maybe too much. At this point, my body is my thermostat, and my joy is my compass. And that's all that I can say. I hope you guys have the most beautiful rest of your day, and that this inspires you in some way, shape, or form. I'm interested to hear your thoughts, and maybe someone who's going through something like this could hear this and it could help. That's all I can hope for. All my love.